Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Today's guest is multi-Grammy winning Country Music Hall of Fame inductee Emmylou Harris. This is part 2 of a 2-part interview we did with Emmy. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. And again, for those of you who can help, we do have a Patreon account. Hope you enjoy Emmylou Harris. Welcome back to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage with Emmylou Harris. So Emmy, speaking of Brian Aherne, Brian created something that we have here in the museum.
Right.
And we had a wonderful event right here on this stage with you and the Hot Band. By the way, who named the Hot Band the Hot Band?
You know, I think it was the meeting when they were putting together the idea that they were going to front this band. And Brian was there, Bob Hunke, who is a great friend and worked with Brian, Eddie Tickner. I don't know who exactly came up, but somebody was saying, she needs a really hot band. And I think it was almost a joke that somehow they said, well, let's just call it the Hot Band.
It worked.
Yeah. And it worked, yeah. And they were very hot.
And the ones that I know that were in it, are like James Burton is a very close friend. They loved that time of their life.
We had fun. I can't tell you. I mean, people that say they hate going out on the road, I've never understood it. I love it. It's where I almost feel the most at home, being with people. As Willie said it, the life I love is playing music with my friends, and all of the musicians in all the bands I've ever played with, we're still friends. It becomes an extended family. Yeah. It really does.
So Brian came up with the idea of a mobile studio, and I'm not positive if he had the first one or not, because I think the Stones have one they recorded with, and Zeppelin did over in England and Europe, but I think Brian had the first North American one. Mobile studio?
I don't know if they had exactly what he, and the microphones, you know, came from the ceilings. Right. So that in the little comfort zone, as he called it, you could actually record without stumbling over chords and all that stuff. Yeah. He actually had a little room where we did complete tracks in that room.
And a lot of other people did too, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was able to do so many projects there. But no, he created that and brought it to, built it in Toronto, had it built in Toronto, and brought it out for, I think David Brommer was the first record he did out in L.A. And he was also working on Diane Brooks, because he already had 3 artists. He was under contract as a producer for 3 artists, and he kind of signed me as an also, because he thought there was something there. That's what I mean. I had people who believed in me. But the truck, this way you could make a record anywhere. And it just gave you the freedom to have this sort of compound where we were kind of isolated up on this hill off of Coldwater Canyon. And we could live there and work there. And I think it created a kind of a casual situation where, instead of 3 hours and the musicians are gone, somebody like Glenn D would stay, into the evening and, have a glass of wine and tell stories. And it becomes more than just making a record. You're creating a kind of a family history together.
So for those of you who don't know what this is, and Brian named it the Enactron.
An Enactron truck, yeah, the Enactron truck.
I don't know how he came up with the name.
I don't know. You have to ask him.
Yeah, I think he said it was like because it was movement and futuristic or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so it's an 18-wheeler trailer that he converted into
40 foot, lead lined.
Lead lined to keep out interference, and lots
And
of,
it's here.
and it's here in the
And it
museum.
can be seen in this museum,
It's encased
in this
here,
museum,
yeah.
yeah.
But people like Willie did
Stardust.
Stardust in there, and
Oh,
I
he
think
did a wonderful Billy Joe Shaver album.
Dylan recorded live with it at one time.
Well, not live, but I'm saying in the house where we were, because
Uh-huh.
you know, people could come and stay there and record.
So the trailer, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, the trailer was a complete studio. You could go out in the
Oh, yeah.
middle of the desert, crank up the generators, and cut an album in the middle of nowhere, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And then, but like in LA, you guys would pull it into a driveway, and then the house would become like a studio.
The house was the studio.
And the truck then became the control room.
The control room, yeah.
And he had it set up too, where you could have cameras from inside to outside too, so you could see, or he could see.
Oh, I don't know about the cameras. I never
Yeah,
paid
'cause
any
there was
attention
TV
to that.
set, there's screens in there anyway, but anyway, a lot of hit records came out of there. And that was that the bulk of your hits came out of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Those records with Brian. I mean, we had, I don't know how many chart records, I don't know, but we were always hovering. But you know, for us, it was just just find that one song and you just gotta cut that song. I've gotta sing that song. And the excitement of getting the perfect arrangement, you know, the perfect take, and the joy of playing it, you know, back and hearing it, and then being able to go out with those same musicians and play it live for an audience. You know, it's
A lot of people don't have that luxury.
no, and I, you know, I didn't have it forever, but I tell you, having the hot band, that first hot band, it set a standard for musicians, and I have always had great musicians. When James had to leave to go back to Elvis, I got Albert Lee. And, you know, he was completely different stylistically, but just another, you know, mighty, one of the great guitar players of all time. So I was just really lucky to have these wonderful musicians backing me, because for me, I was part of a band. I was the girl singer and the rhythm guitar player. Although we always had another rhythm guitar player. You know, Roddy, you know, either Barry Tashin was one, and Ricky Skaggs, of course, although he happened to play a little mandolin and fiddle too, and sing harmony as well as Rodney and Barry and Ricky. So that was kind of the formula, and this is how I learned to make records and have some confidence in the studio. I never wanted to produce, ever. I don't know why an artist would be crazy enough to want to produce their own records. Just because, for me, the luxury of just being able to sing, but give my input and ideas, but not be in control of everything, that's my happy place. And I've been lucky to be able to just have that happy place and not worry about having to be in charge of other things.
Well, you know, like, you don't have, I've heard producers say that are engineers too, say, I don't want to be the engineer and the producer, because I want to clear my head to just this and not have to worry about other things, you know. How did you, because this is, when I think of you, you have an image. That's something a lot of a lot of artists don't have an image. And somehow you've created an image. And when I think of you, I think of the way you dress, and I think of that big J200. How did you fall into such a big...
You know, all right, here's another story. Because I didn't even know that I had an image about dressing. I fell into that just because I liked my Acme cowboy boots that you bought for $25 right back then. But yeah, it was Fred Wallace who had Westwood Music in L.A. Because I was playing, I had my J50, but then, and then I got it was a Gibson girl pretty much, a J50, and then I got a country western. And, but that guitar got damaged. It was ultimately repaired, but I thought that it wasn't. And when I got my first $500 for working on Graham's record, I bought a Martin D28. So that's basically what I was playing. And Fred Wallachy just, I don't remember whether he actually called me or what it was, because Graham had introduced me to Fred, and all musicians knew Fred and loved Fred. He said, "I've got a guitar for you." He said, "Joe Walsh has just sold his Gibson J200. It has the factory pickups, so you don't use them, but it's here." And Fred just thought that should be my guitar. And I bought it from him. And basically, that's been...
The black one?
No, this is one that I had it for a long time. It was stolen and returned to me. But I actually gave it to Paul Kennerly, because he's just one of the great strummers of all time. And I had stopped taking it on the road after it got stolen, and I got it back. So he still got that guitar. But and then I moved on to I just always play J200s. And it's funny because 2 or 3 years ago I tore my rotator cuff and couldn't, it was just enough of an angle to where it was painful to play the J200 while I was going through physical therapy. So I went to just a regular sort of draught-knot shaped Gibson. And I played it, and then one night, I was pretty much healed, and I said, "I want my J200s back." So Maple Byrne, the wonderful Maple Byrne, arranged to get 2 Gibsons, one right after the other, right off the factory line, and I've been playing those, and it was like an old friend coming back into my life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the guitars I had at all.
Yeah.
They're wonderful guitars, but you just get used to something. And
like I said, to me, you're not completely dressed until you got that J200.
well, I feel that way too. Yeah. Yes.
So, Linda Ronstadt and Dolly.
Yeah.
How did all that happen? I mean, that was magic, wasn't it?
Yes, it was magic. Well, Linda and I became very good friends. We met on the road. I was on the road with Graham, and she was on the road opening for Neil Young, and we converged. Our tour buses converged in Houston, Texas, one night in February of 1973, and we just became fast friends. One of the first things we said to each other was, we sort of said, "Well, who's your favorite girl singer?" And we both said Dolly Parton, and neither of us knew her. I think Linda might have met her, but I had not met her. But we didn't really know her. And so our friendship started on that. And so after things started happening for me, because, Linda was in L.A., I was in L.A. making a record, and in fact, before I even got a record, I had come out, Linda had brought me out to sing with her at the Roxy. A great friend, incredible friend, one of the most generous people, smartest people you'll ever know, and a great friend. Anyway, I had cut Coat of Many Colors, and I had been to, after that record came out, Brian and I were in Nashville for, I guess, the CMA Awards or something, and so the people, Powers of Beast, set us up for me to meet Dolly. So I'd met Dolly, and I guess Dolly, a short while later, I guess she was in L.A. I and Linda were both living in L.A., and they arranged for Dolly, she'd come to L.A., and because of meeting her and me cutting that song, she was invited over to where the truck was, Lonnie Lane, where the house where we were living in. And I called Linda and said, Dolly's coming over to the house. And she got in her car, and so there we were, and there was a guitar, and somebody said, "Well, sing something." And I think we did Bury Me Beneath the Willow and When I Stopped Dreaming. And wow, somebody said, I think it was Bob Hunka, you know, you guys need to make a record. So eventually we did.
It's kind of like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young came together that way.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's people. We all three love to sing harmony. We might love that almost more than doing, you know, stuff by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So. But anyway, that was fun. We because you know you don't. I love being with my guys on the band on the bus and touring and everything, but you don't get a lot of time to be with the girlfriends, and that's nice. That's a different kind of thing too.
And Dolly, I mean, who else would you want to hang with?
She's one of the funniest people I have ever known. She cracks me up. She's also as smart as a whip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Linda, I don't know if there's ever been a better singer.
I think she's got the greatest voice of our generation.
Yeah.
There's no one, there is a sound in her voice that nobody else gets. It's a cry. There's a certain cry in her voice that it's an instrument that just cannot be. No one else has that instrument that she does, and when she sings a note, you know it's Linda.
Yeah.
But she's such a smart musician too. She really. Dolly and I are just kind of duh. We know just sing harmony and you know. But it's Linda who can arrange those beautiful voices on when we did Dolly's song. I mean, when we did Neil's song after the Gold Rush.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
And the arranging all those beautiful Helen voices and the that was her arrangement all the way. Oddly enough, it was Dolly's idea to do the song.
I was going to ask you who thought of that.
It was Dolly's idea.
Yeah.
I just went along.
Yeah.
I loved it.
You know, you sang on one of my songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tammy Wynette,
Oh.
Beneath the Painted Sky.
That was your song? That's right. So thrilled to sing with Tammy Wynette.
Yeah, she had that voice too, you know.
And now she had the little cry in her voice, but there's something in the whole sound, the roundness of her voice. Well, you know what anybody who's heard her voice knows what I'm talking about.
I think she was my mentor, Billy Sherrill. That was his favorite singer.
Yeah, well, we all loved her.
And Billy did one of yours. No, you did one of Billy's songs.
I did Too Far Gone. That was Brian's idea.
Yeah.
I didn't think I sang it well.
No, he loved it.
But I realized it was just a different thing. Like Brian didn't particularly want to do Coat of Many Colors because he thought it was too slow, or it was, I don't know what he thought. He wasn't crazy about it, and I wasn't crazy about Too Far Gone. So another part of our relationship was we respected each other enough to we just did both.
Yeah.
And it worked out great.
So I did an interview with Neil when he was here recording Prairie Wind.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I was doing that project.
That's what I questioned. How did that come about? That's such a great movie and record.
You know, Neil. I mean, I met Neil as far back as when Brian and I were recording that first record. He came to the truck, and in that little comfort zone, Ben Keith and Neil and I stayed up all night, I think, putting some harmonies on one of his records. And I think there was a bottle of tequila involved. And you know, and I had done his bridge concerts that he's done, and of course on Wrecking Ball, you know, we did we did the song Wrecking Ball, which became the title track for the album, but also he came in and sang on that song, and I was Lucinda Williams' song. So we have collaborated on different things over the years. And I live in Nashville, so I guess I was an easy phone call. I live like, 10 minutes from the Ryman. But it was a wonderful thing to be involved in, yes.
You had something to do with saving the Ryman, didn't you?
Well, I'd like to think so.
I mean, that's what I've heard.
I do know that they were, there were definitely plans for it to go because they were going to put the Bell South building. That's what I heard. But I was only concerned in my next project. I wanted to do a live record of songs that we had not recorded in the studio. I wanted to work up songs with my band, the Nash Ramblers, and make the record in front of an audience over a period of 3 nights. And I was looking for a venue, and it never occurred to me that we could use the Ryman because it was closed. But at that point, Bonnie Garner was working with my manager, Mark Rothbaum. And Mark was up, in New York, and Bonnie was here in town. And she said, well, why don't I just call a Ryman and see if we can get permission to use the Ryman, which was just brilliant on her part. Mm-hmm. And so we could only have 200 people a night. Couldn't use the gallery. It wasn't sound. And we did it, and it ended up winning a Grammy. And plus, it was just some great music by a great bunch of musicians. And the next thing I knew, they weren't going to tear it down. So you figure, you put the pieces together.
Yeah, it had to be. Yeah,
it had to be.
Yeah.
So whatever, if I did have something to do with it, so grateful, because it's still one of the best sounding venues in the world for making music.
I don't think anybody can imagine Nashville without that still being here.
Yeah.
It's such a loss. Neil said it was like playing inside of a giant acoustic guitar.
Yeah, it is, because it's round. There's no corners.
Last thing, you love dogs, and you've got a project here. Do you want to?
Well, I'm one of the many independent no-kill rescues in Nashville, but I will say that it's called Bonaparte's Retreat after my dog Bonaparte. Bonaparte's Retreat was the first independent rescue to go to Metro Animal Control in the days when it was a pretty high euthanasia rate. This was 16 years ago. And to say unofficially, could we partner with you? We want to take dogs, we will pay the fee, but we want you to know that they're not going to a home, they're going to a rescue in my backyard, and we will find them homes. And we still have that relationship with them. In the interim, there have been a lot of, maybe 36 or more independent rescues, no-kill, what they're called, so that Nashville is hopefully on its way to becoming a no-kill city. It's made incredible progress. I mean, Metro Animal Control is down to almost the single digits in euthanasia, but I almost feel like as long as one dog or cat is euthanized, not for health reasons or whatever, but because there's no room for it in anyone's home, that's one too many. Yeah. And I think we can get there, but it's been an extraordinary part of my life to bring my love of animals. My father, was studying veterinary medicine when World War II broke out, and he quit University of Virginia to join the Marine Corps, where he met my mother. So there's a lot of full circle stuff going there. All my family, aunts, uncles, really loved animals, and I think you have to have that instilled in you from a child, almost. Although I do think that people, even if they've never had a pet into their adult years, if they would take a chance, they would see that it would change their lives for the better in a way they could have never imagined.
Oh, well, they use them with the soldiers coming back,
Oh, they are a gift to us in so many ways. They heal us. They can truly heal us on our external wounds, our internal wounds, and just make life better, just because it's a great way to get up in the morning. Yeah.
Well, this is a great way for me to end the day, and so thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Joe.
You're really
I
great.
love what you've done here. I think people need to know about the Musicians Hall of Fame because there's so much going on here. There's so much to see, and you're celebrating a lot of things and people that maybe hadn't been celebrated before and certainly need to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Come back and see us next time on Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage.